The gaming industry is something that has seen a lot of change over the years. As technology and people's taste evolves, things change. From development, marketing, monetization, and even the product itself. Video games have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and I've been invested in the industry so long now that I feel like I've seen the rise and fall of empires. And right now, it feels like we're in this really weird transitional period of gaming. We're entering the era of subscription-based games and live services, microtransactions, competitive gaming, battle passes, season passes. It's rare that games launch as a full and complete product these days. And when they do, they're praised by the gaming community for being something special, as if that isn't how it should be in the first place. So today I want to pose the question, are modern video game trends hurting the gaming industry as a whole? My overall goal for this video is more or less to just have a discussion, because this is something that I've been thinking about pretty consistently for a long time now, and I wanted to make something so that I could finally get all my thoughts out on the table. And the first topic that I want to bring up is games as a service, because I think this is one of the major things that is causing all the other issues that I'm going to bring up later to trickle down into so many other games these days. So I just want to get this out of the way. In general, I'm not a big fan of live service games. There are a few exceptions to this, like Sea of Thieves. Gears 5 is okay, but it's far from my favorite. And Master Chief Collection, I guess a strong argument could be made that Master Chief Collection is a live service game now, but it's not really in the traditional sense. And then there's also Modern Warfare. But in general, my opinion of live service games is that it gives developers and publishers an excuse to launch games in terrible condition, buggy, missing pieces of important content, and absolutely riddled with microtransactions. Games like Fallout 76, Battlefront 2, Sea of Thieves, Gears 5, Anthem, Destiny 2, Avengers. The list goes on, and these are just the games that I can think of off the top of my head. And they all had terrible launches because of their live service business model. There are so many games that come out now, and the devs just say,
"I'm deeply sorry. Sorry."
and just slowly start patching and updating it over time. It's gotten to the point now where it feels like games just come and go so fast, because if they launch bad, of course barring a few exceptions, they just kind of get swept under the rug to make room for more broken games to come down the pipeline. But I don't want to just not acknowledge that there are benefits to live service games, and I want to give a couple examples from games that I currently play. Gears of War 5 gets new character and weapon skins added weekly, and also gets new free maps added every couple months. And the same goes for the new Call of Duty games, how they get new free maps every single season and maybe even mid-season. It helps keep the game's player population healthy long after launch in some cases, and also prevents a division between the player base. But now I want to talk about a symptom of live service games, and that's battle passes. And here's my harsh but honest opinion of battle passes. Battle passes are a lazy and kind of scummy way to manipulate players into sticking with your game. That is a bold statement, I know, so let me present my argument. I want to make a comparison between Gears of War 3 and Gears of War 5. How you unlock cosmetics in 5 is pretty simple and by one of two ways. You can either buy it in the store using credits, or progress through the battle pass. In Gears 3, you had a multitude of ways to unlock cosmetics. You could get them through leveling up, completing specific challenges, unlocking achievements, progressing through and finishing the campaign, and buying DLC, of course. And as a player, I find Gears 3's method so much more attractive because you can unlock exactly what you want, and the cosmetics actually mean something. If you saw Anthony Carmine running around, you knew that person had grinded until level 75. If you saw Unarmored Marcus, it meant that they had completed the campaign. If you saw someone with gold weapon skins, that meant they had completed all the weapon challenges, and if you could dream to flex nearly as hard as me, you had Aaron Griffin, and that meant that you had played so much Horde that you had spent something like, I think it was $10 million in Horde. In-game currency, of course. But nowadays, it seems like the character and weapon skins just kind of blur together. They don't really mean anything, because not only are there so many of them, everyone gets them the same way, at the same time, or you just drop money on them. It's just boring. And I can make the exact same comparison with Halo 3 and Halo 5, but it's worse because all the armor was unlocked in random loot boxes in the most pay-to-win and predatory microtransaction system that nobody ever talks about. Like seriously, this system was so atrocious, and it just kind of got swept under the rug because it happened long before the Battlefront 2 controversy. And not only do I find it boring, but it creates an artificial grind. And it does this because in order to unlock, say, the weapon skin you want, you have to do nothing but just play and play and play to level up and progress through the 100 tier battle pass with all of this annoying stuff in your way, like emotes, banners, sprays, and all of the other filler content that no one really cares about. I mean, I don't think I've seen a single time where somebody actually used a spray in Modern Warfare. It just doesn't happen. If you dare do a dance in Gears of War 5, you're dead just like that. But now I want to actually go back and reference Modern Warfare as a good example and why I think their battle pass actually somewhat worked for me and why I didn't find it too intrusive. And it's for one main reason, and it's because the battle pass wasn't the only way that you can unlock content in the game. And that's because it did something similar to what I was talking about with Gears 3, where you could complete specific challenges for guns, game modes, leveling up your player rank. It had all the base unlocks that pre-battle pass and microtransaction Call of Duty had, but with the battle pass on top of it if you wanted something extra. And that's what I think battle passes should provide if they're going to continue, something extra. And the other thing that I hate about battle passes is that they employ a tactic called FOMO, or fear of missing out. They are specifically designed to make the player feel like they have to play because they have only one chance to unlock a certain cosmetic, and when it's gone forever. You get 1 to 3 months to essentially grind to level 100 if you want to unlock everything. And since most games nowadays have one, you have to choose to either not get your full money's worth from the $10 battle pass you paid for, or to focus in on 1 or 2 games to grind and grind for the next month or 2. And what sucks is that in most cases, if you want to buy the battle pass to get the unlocks, if you don't make it to the end, it's gone and you can never get that stuff again, even though you paid full price for it. What I think should happen is that at the end of each season, that previous battle pass should just be added to the list of stuff you can unlock. You can buy the next battle pass, but then you can choose to progress through whichever battle pass you want to. The Master Chief Collection does this, and every battle pass is free, so there's really no excuse for games like Modern Warfare's battle pass to be timed. I mean, come on guys, people have full-time jobs and families and just other things to do. People play video games to relax and have fun. They shouldn't have to be worried or even slightly annoyed, feeling like they wasted money because they weren't able to play 40 hours of their favorite game that month. It just kinda sucks, is all I'm saying, especially in full-priced AAA games. I still remember when mobile game monetization used to be a meme, but now it's starting to slowly creep its way into the AAA game market. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about having fun and extra means of customization and player expression within a game, but it has to make sense within the game's ecosystem and atmosphere.
Oh my god. Control.
And while we're on the subject of games starting to punish more casual consumers, I want to talk about something that's also been personally bothering me a lot in recent years. And Sean W. actually made a really good video talking about this same issue, and it really helped validate my thoughts on this because I felt like it was a pretty unpopular opinion at the time. And it's how most modern FPS and shooter games are specifically designed around attracting and maintaining a competitive audience rather than casual players. When you get right down to it, truly competitive players are in the minority. Most people just want to come home after a long day's work and play some Halo or some Call of Duty and have a good time. Maybe win a couple matches, do some trash talking, a little teabagging here and there never hurt anybody, and just relax. But these days, everything revolves around competitive play. Weapon tuning, map design, matchmaking. It becomes less about fun and more about having a balanced experience. Every game wants to be the next CSGO, League of Legends, or Valorant. But the hard truth is that there's a lot of bigger games out there that already have established and dedicated fans, so trying to squeeze in with the popular crowd like that is going to be very difficult for, well, any new game, established IP or not. And what people need to realize is that if a game is good enough, if a game is fun enough, competitive niches are going to form around it organically. The original Halos were designed around 30 seconds of fun. Bungie spent so much time focusing on making the experience of actually playing the game as fun as possible. Weapon and map design were designed around fun, and the first 3 games were so fun in fact that, guess what? Players who wanted to play that game competitively flocked to those games. People used to host giant LAN party tournaments, and as of last year, the Microsoft Store is still holding in-person Halo 3 tournaments. The same happened with Call of Duty before the whole esports craze, and although not as popular, Gears of War, which I used to actually play competitively in. Halo and Gears of War were the only 2 games I've ever touched ranked in and actually cared about. But my point is that when games cater towards competitive play, casual consumers can get turned off because every match just turns into a sweat fest, and this has never been more apparent than with the new Call of Duty and its skill-based matchmaking. That game saw nowhere near the same amount of success that Modern Warfare did because of how bad the skill-based matchmaking is. And it also just kind of came out half-baked, which only further feeds into my point about live service games. And this is just my experience lately, but I've been finding it extremely difficult to drag myself back into multiplayer games these days. Games I used to love playing online, like Halo Halo, Gears, Call of Duty. I just can't bring myself to search for a match anymore. And it's only made me rediscover my love for single-player games. I fell in love with the Resident Evil series, discovered the Metro games, played through Half-Life for the first time. I mean, this old Xbox fanboy kicked his Xbox out of its spot where it now sits unplugged on the floor so I could hook up my PlayStation and play through the Souls games, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and the Final Fantasy remake. And I'm starting to think that because of how competitive games have gotten recently, maybe that's why we've seen such a large comeback in single-player games over the last 5 years. But my point is that I think competitive-leaning games can push away a pretty large portion of its potential audience. People like me who just went elsewhere. And I don't know how many others out there are with me on this, but let me know because I'd love to talk more about it with some of you guys. Maybe it's just because I'm growing up. Maybe it's because I've just become more cynical over the years. But it's becoming harder and harder for me to not notice how monetization is impacting gaming right now. And it's becoming more difficult to look away. But that is just my 2 cents on the matter, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like really helps me out in a big way, and if you're new, consider subscribing because my channel is a great place to find more content just like this. You can follow me on Twitter at NickRespawns, and if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.